Hello. So today we are going to present about inbreeding. So the next slide. So before I explain about the inbreeding, this is our presenter, as you can see. So next, the introduction of inbreeding. So you might wonder, what is inbreeding? Inbreeding is a mating among relatives, which is genetically related. So the inbreeding function is to increase the proportion of homozygote and decrease the proportion of heterozygote in the population. For example, a completely inbred population will theoretically consist only of homozygous genotype. So what the most extreme form of inbreeding? So the answer is self-fertilization. Is it rare in animals and is widespread in plant? So the next is, what is genetic disorder?
Um, when we talk about inbreeding, there is some effect towards the generation of species. Some of the effect is due towards the autosomal recessive inheritance, where it will affect a gene from in a species that requires two recessive allele to exhibit the trait. Um, uh, from inbreeding, it will cause a higher risk to inherit the autosomal genetic disorder because since the first generation will inherit the gene for towards the autosomal recessive. Therefore, if the inbreeding is continued towards the next generation, it will affect the whole population. Some example that is from autosomal recessive disorder is sickle cell anemia, which is uh, the sickle shape of the red blood cell, and also cystic fibrosis, which is the overproducing of mucus in the lungs, which causes the people who have cystic fibrosis to have an uh, difficulty to breathe. When we talk about high risk, there is also a probability. Therefore, let's we talk about the measure of inbreeding.
Okay, so how we measure the inbreeding? So it's actually the inbreeding coefficient and it's expressed in the letter of F. So in the coefficient, the both alleles, the two identical alleles that are both derived from the common ancestor, they are said to be the identical by descent. So the mating probability of the identical allele, it matters if the allele affects the fitness, and this will cause the inbreeding depression, which means that the measure of loss of fitness caused by the inbreeding, because normally the inbred population, they have the lower mean fitness. So if the inbreeding coefficient, it's range from 0 to 1, if it means 0, that shows that the no individual that have the both alleles are derived from the common ancestor. But if maximum 1, that means all individuals in the populations are homozygous and they derive from the same ancestor. So there's one question that we can discuss on. Suppose the frequency of an autosomal recessive disease is 1 per 40,000. What is the expected frequency of the disease among the offspring of the first cousins? So we need to know what is the meaning of the first cousins. So there's 4 probabilities of the first cousins, which both fathers are the brothers, mothers are sisters, or the father of the male cousin and the mother of the female cousin, they are both siblings, or vice versa, means the father of the female cousin and the mother of the male cousin are siblings. So the solution is we can use the coefficient with the formula in 1/2 to the power of N1 plus N2 and plus 1, which the N shows that the number of generations separating the individuals in the mating. So what it means, the half first cousins means that before the marriage, there will be one individual and one individual. So it becomes the half, and they are separated from the common grandparents by 2 generations. So if 2 generations mean the N equals to 2. So it shows that F equals to 1 over 2 to the power of 2 plus 2 plus 1 equals to the 1 over 2 to the power of 5. So if we count the first cousin marriage, which involve the 2 individuals, we need to times 2, or we plus the plus twice, means 1 over 2 to the power of 5 plus 1 over 2 to the power of 5, then we'll get 1 over 16. And then we can count the frequency of the deleterious allele, which is 1 over 200. We can get it from the square root of 1 over 40,000. And then finally, the frequency of the disease is 1 over 40,000 plus the remaining allele plus times the deleterious allele frequency and times the coefficient of inbreeding. And then we will get the final answer of 1 over 2,977. Okay, so how about the inbreeding types? There are how many types?
All right, now we're gonna have a look at types of inbreeding. Next slide. All right, the first one is close breeding. It is defined as the mating of closely related animals than the average of the population. They can be traced back to more than one common ancestor. The example of close breeding is mother crossed with son, or brother with sister, or father with sister, and many more. Let's continue with line breeding.
Okay, I will explain about line breeding. So line breeding is a mating animals. They are more distantly related. So it can be traced back to one common ancestor. So unlike the what Batia explained, this breeding is or have only one common ancestor. So for example, is half brother and half sister. So this line breeding is popular among farmers because it is a highly strategized inbreeding because they can lock in desirable trait and can push away or get out the defect trait in the livestock. So let's continue with effect and disadvantages.
Okay, so for effects and disadvantages, inbreeding depression is a declining of average individual fitness in a small population due to mating with related individual, resulting in the expression of recessive traits. So there are many disadvantages of inbreeding. For example, it is increasing genetic disorder, smaller adult size, facial abnormalities. So if you can see in the picture, this is one of the result of inbreeding. This is white tiger Kenny. This is a rare white tiger, which is cruelly nicknamed as the ugliest big cat in the world because of inbreeding result by animal trafficker. So yeah, this is it. So Humaira, can you name another disadvantages?
Okay, the one that I has explained is the physical disadvantage of resulting by the inbreeding. Okay, the one I'm going to explain is based on biological abilities of the organisms to produced by the inbreeding, which is the first one is lower birth rate and higher infant mortality, which means they will short live than the others, and then they will have a slower growth rate and they will have to compromise their immune system. Okay, the next one I will explain is the advantages of a few advantages of the inbreeding. Okay, inbreeding is important to mainly maintain the purity of a bloodline by increasing the homozygosity of the generation. Based on the point here is it will ensure the ruler are within from the same family bloodline, which means they want to keep their certain traits to be kept in the bloodline. Okay, next one is to increase the uniformity, and the last one to increase the probability that as 2 copies of any given genes will be identical. Okay, that's it